What is wrong with you people? And by you people, I mean all of you people who are overlooking the third Saturday in October, the game that defines the third Saturday in October, and that is Alabama and Tennessee on a weekend, the only weekend, I believe, all season in which all 16 SEC teams are playing SEC games. 8 conference matchups, one big one after another. College game days in Athens, Georgia for Ole Miss and Georgia. But people, I believe, are talking about everything but Alabama, Tennessee. I feel like I should be smoking a cigar right now. I don't smoke. The last time I smoked a cigar was January of 1987 when Penn State, of course, those of you who know me know I grew up in Pennsylvania. As a Penn State fan, was enrolled to go there before I moved to Alabama. And my brother and I were watching Penn State beat Miami, the hated Hurricanes, in the national championship game. And he broke out the cigars after Joe Paterno and company beat Jimmy Johnson in Miami. That's the last time I had a cigar. And there's the iconic photo, maybe the most iconic photo of Jay Barker, the Alabama quarterback, and Gene Stallings, the Alabama coach, back in the day after a win in Knoxville. Obviously, Jay's wearing the road white jersey. They're playing in Tuscaloosa tomorrow. Isn't it amazing how that's become a tradition? Now it goes both ways. And you will see cigar smoke rising in a cloud in Bryant-Denny on Saturday evening if Alabama gets it done. And they can't lose to Tennessee, can they? Can they? Hey, everyone, I'm Kevin Scarbinsky. This is Scarbo Knows. Thank you for joining us today. I want to say thank you to our executive producer, Brendan Martin. Thank you to all of you for watching. We're really growing this show. Check us out. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a like. Go ahead and subscribe. We'd appreciate that. And scan the QR code for our sponsor. We are very indebted to them. Money Management Services, Birmingham's Financial Advisors. They are a family-owned, fee-only financial services firm. Whatever you need, if you're thinking about retirement, I'm not. I plan on doing this for a long, long time, God willing. But if you're thinking about that or any other financial needs you have, check out the Rice family. Give them a call. They're good friends of mine. They will take great care of you. We'll hear more from them later in the show. So let's get to it. I feel like, and this is a rarity in this state, that people are talking about everything but Alabama football and everything but Alabama, Tennessee, the third Saturday in October, when the colors clash, but they mix perfectly. Those are fall colors. The leaves are well, they're not quite turning yet because the temperature just went up. I was at a high school football game in Lochapoka, Alabama yesterday. Had so much fun this year. The Thursday night AHSAA TV network game of the week. I'm fortunate I get to host the pregame show with my buddy Chris Blackshear. We've had so much fun going all over the state, and it was 85 degrees during our pregame show yesterday. We were close to the plains. And, of course, everybody's talking about Auburn because things are not going well for the Tigers and Hugh Freeze. People are wondering, is this a win or leave town game for Hugh Freeze? I don't know that it's that drastic, but it's getting there. We're not that far away if Auburn doesn't beat Missouri and it drops its 4th straight SEC game on Saturday night in Jordan-Hare. So that game's getting a lot of play. Obviously, Georgia and Ole Miss getting a lot of play. Vanderbilt, LSU, you just heard Frank Duffy on the Sidelines.live network talking about that game, breaking it down for the first time since, as Frank put it, the Carter administration. Vanderbilt is favored in an SEC football game. Pretty unbelievable what Clark Lee, led by Diego Pavia, have done there in Nashville. But as I said, I just feel like people are sleeping on this game. Now, they won't be sleeping on Saturday night in Bryant-Denny Stadium. That place will be as electric as it's been in some time because, and this is a great debate. This has been going on. I've been doing this a long time. And as long as I can remember in this business, this debate has raged in this state. Who is Alabama's biggest rival? Is it Auburn? Of course, in-state rival. They truly do not like each other. Or is it Tennessee, which has a much greater history, a much longer history? This will be the 108th meeting between the Crimson Tide and the Vols. They played a lot more often than Auburn and Alabama have. And so I've always thought that the divide is really based on your age, that if you're an older Alabama fan, if you're a more seasoned Alabama fan, that you look at Tennessee as your biggest rival, because we can go back to Bear Bryant against General Neyland and the mutual respect the two programs had for each other and the incredible games they played through the years, all the championships they won. But I've always thought that a younger generation, the younger generation, looked at Auburn as more of a rival, because even as Alabama was beating just about everybody, just about every year under Nick Saban, the biggest thorn in Alabama's side was the Auburn Tigers, particularly when Gus Malzahn was there. So I was a little surprised this week to hear this quote from one of the iconic figures in this rivalry, one Terrence Mount Cody. Let's look at what Terrence had to say. He was a guest on the Beat Everybody podcast on AL.com. Ben Flanagan and the boys, my friends there, do a great job. I urge you to check it out. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on AL.com. And Terrence Cody, who, of course, was the author of Rocky Block, and you know you have a great rivalry when the games have nicknames that resonate for decades and decades. Terrence Cody, who he actually blocked 2 field goals against Tennessee in 2009, Lane Kiffin's only season in Knoxville, to save the game. Alabama won 12-10 and went on to an undefeated national championship season, Nick Saban's first in Tuscaloosa. So just this week, Terrence Cody said this about the two rivalries for Alabama. You'd think the Auburn rivalry, there's a lot of hate. But this one, meaning Tennessee, I think there is more hate in this rivalry than it is in the Auburn rivalry. And I have to admit, I was a little taken aback, because obviously Terrence Cody is of a younger generation. He played in both games. And by the way, in that 2009 Alabama championship season, both of those games went down to the wire. The Tennessee game in Tuscaloosa, and again, it took, you see Mount Cody there reaching up his big left paw to block that last-second field goal attempt from Daniel Lincoln. Is it Daniel or Alex? I think it's Daniel. Forgive me if I'm wrong. The bigger point, obviously, Terrence Cody blocked the field goal. Alabama escaped with a win. But then it had to go to Auburn later in the season and had to put together a last-minute drive led by Greg McElroy and Julio Jones to escape Jordan Hare with a victory. And then, of course, Alabama went on, got its revenge against Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow in the SEC championship game, and then beat Texas for the national title, the first of 6 that Nick Saban won in Tuscaloosa. So, very interesting. I would push back, but I ain't pushing back on a guy who goes north of 350 pounds, or at least he did when he was playing. I don't know what he's weighing in at today. But I will say, definitely check out that podcast with Mount Cody, Ben Flanagan. Beat Everybody is the name of the podcast, focusing on Alabama. Again, you can find that on YouTube or on AL.com. Now, this has been a weird series, obviously. Those of you who follow it, Alabama fans, you know. Tennessee fans, you know it. It tends to be very, very streaky. Nick Saban didn't lose to Tennessee until his next to last game against Tennessee in his 17 years at Alabama. There have been years when Tennessee would, or decades, or periods, I should say, when Tennessee would run off a number of wins in a row. Alabama would do the same. But it's become a back and forth kind of thing since Josh Heupel got to Tennessee. In fact, Heupel is 2-2 against Alabama, and he's won 2 of the last 3, both of those in Knoxville. So does home field advantage matter? There was a time in this series when it didn't, but it's starting to look that way. Do you remember the last time that Tennessee won in Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa? You have to go back a ways. Where were you in 2003, the last time it happened? And let's look at that. There's an iconic image, one of many from this series. That game was tied 20-20 at the end of regulation. It was Mike Shula's first year as a head coach at Alabama. And this was kind of the story of his tenure. Even when they came close, even when they did good things, even when they competed their asses off, they just came up short. And as I said, that game was tied at the end of regulation, 20-20. It ended up Tennessee 51, Alabama 43 in 5 overtimes. And in the course of that game, there you see the picture, Wesley Britt. And little did we know at the time that Wesley would grow up, well, it's hard to grow much bigger than the offensive tackle that Wesley was, all SEC player, went on to play in the NFL, that he would grow up, so to speak, to become the husband of a United States senator from the state of Alabama. That, of course, is Katie Britt. Had an interesting time visiting with Wesley a few weeks ago on our game of the week in high school, his alma mater, Coleman High School at Hartselle. That's a big rivalry in high school football in the state of Alabama. But there you see Wesley with his left fist raised. He's on a cart. He's being wheeled off the field because he broke his leg in that 2003 Alabama-Tennessee game. It was so severe, the injury. One of his teammates, Shaud Williams, the fantastic running back, got sick physically, nauseated. He heard his leg snap. And as Wesley was being wheeled off the field, he raised his left fist, started pumping it, started waving it, and the fans responded with an impromptu Roll Tide. And again, when you love college football, when you love rivalries like this, it gives you chills to remember moments like that. As Wesley tried to inspire, he's in pain. He's got a broken leg. He's been through so much. He's been through a losing season, coaching change at Alabama, and he can't finish the game. He can't finish the season. But that one will stick in the memory of Alabama fans and Tennessee fans for a long time. Now, that is a long time to go in between victories for Tennessee in Tuscaloosa. But there have been some close calls. It's not like Alabama, even under Nick Saban, just rolled up the Vols like a Cuban cigar and smoked them every time they walked in through the gates. Go back to, again, 2009, Rocky Block, 12-10. Terrence Cody had to block 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, including on the final play of the game. Go back to, and this one resonates, 2015. Alabama's already got a conference loss to Ole Miss, and they have to stay perfect from there to get into the playoff, the 14 playoff, which was in its second year at the time. And Tennessee came to town and gave Alabama everything it wanted and then some. And Jake Coker, one of the most underappreciated players in Alabama history, had to lead a fourth quarter drive to beat Tennessee and really spark Alabama on its road to another national championship. And before the game tomorrow night, that 2015 Alabama team, think Reggie Ragland at linebacker, think Derrick Henry at tailback, and think Jake Coker at quarterback. Those guys are going to be honored before the game tomorrow night in Tuscaloosa. Is there a little magic there, a little mojo maybe, if this game is close, which I think most people expect it to be? Can Alabama rise to the occasion against the Vols in the fourth quarter as that 2015 Alabama team did? And then, of course, we remember, we can go back to 2005. Alabama won 6-3. That was the best season Mike Shula had, of course, as the Alabama head coach. They started that year 9-0. And included in that run was a 6-3 win over Tennessee in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Tennessee was going in for the go-ahead, potentially winning touchdown. And Roman Harper, one of the best defensive players in Alabama history, an incredible safety, had a great career in the NFL. Now you see him on a regular basis on the SEC network. Roman punched the ball out near the goal line to save the day. So I think that's the kind of game we're anticipating Saturday night, a game that will take 60 minutes or maybe more. Because, again, we're not talking enough about either of these teams in the SEC championship picture, in the national championship picture. Both teams are 5-1. Alabama's ranked number 6 in the AP poll. Tennessee's number 11. Of course, the difference is Alabama's loss is out of conference to Florida State, what seems like an eternity ago, whereas Tennessee dropped an SEC game to Georgia, and Georgia had to stage a great comeback and then win that game in overtime in Knoxville. So the winner of this game is putting itself in prime position, first of all, to get to Atlanta to the SEC championship game and then get into the playoff where Tennessee was last year and Alabama was not. So how do you look at this game? How do you break this down? There are so many numbers that resonate with me, but the first thing that jumps out is quarterback play. I think we're about to see maybe the best QB1 versus QB1 matchup in the SEC so far this year. No offense to Gunnar Stockton, who went against Joey Aguilar. No offense to Diego Pavia, who went against Ty Simpson when Alabama beat Vandy a couple of weeks ago. But this game, Ty Simpson for Alabama, Joey Aguilar, who's been a revelation for Tennessee, I think comes down to quarterback play. Which one of these guys can make a play in the fourth quarter that helps decide this game? We've already seen Ty Simpson do it. He did it last week against Missouri. And look at these numbers. And these are SEC stats, courtesy of our friends at cfbstats.com. In quarterback rating, Ty Simpson leads the SEC, 172.36. Joey Aguilar is fourth, 162.27. Touchdown to interception ratio. Ty Simpson has thrown 16 touchdown passes and only one interception. He's number 1 in the league, leads the conference. Joey Aguilar's number 3. He's thrown 14 touchdown passes to only 5 interceptions. Completion percentage. This is where there is some separation between them. Ty Simpson's 3rd in the league. He's completing just a tick under 71% of his passes, and Joey Aguilar is just a tick under 65%. That is 9th in the conference. And then in yards per game, again, you can't separate them with a thimble. Joey Aguilar 2nd in the league. He's throwing for 280 yards a game. Ty Simpson right behind at 279.7, a difference of 0.3 yards per game. So there are some other numbers, though, and this is where I think it gets a little scary for Alabama. When you start looking at this, the Alabama offense has not been great. And I had to write these down. Alabama's 6th in the league in scoring, about 35 points a game. But if you look at just SEC games, Alabama's averaging 27 points a game. Alabama has not scored more than 30 points in its 3 SEC games. And, of course, that was courtesy of a late touchdown against Vanderbilt when they stretched it to a 2-score lead after it was a 1-score game for about 55 minutes. Meanwhile, Tennessee, which leads the conference in scoring at 48 points a game, if you just pull out the SEC games, Tennessee's still scoring just about 39 points a game, or 12 more points per game than Alabama in conference. And Tennessee has not scored fewer than 34 points in a conference game. And the difference is Tennessee's more balanced. Tennessee can run the ball, and Tennessee can throw the ball. Alabama has skewed heavily towards the passing game. And it's a controlled passing game. It's really been interesting to watch how Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer have put together this plan week by week. And their time of possession has been outstanding, but they're not doing it by leaning on the running game. And we don't know if they'll be able to lean on the running game on Saturday night because we don't know, A, if Jam Miller is going to play after that concussion he sustained last week at Missouri, and B, if he does play, how healthy will he be? How many snaps can he go? And Jam Miller's return to the Alabama lineup after missing the first 3 games with a dislocated collarbone that he suffered in the preseason has been a marked difference. It's not, he's not Derrick Henry. He's not going to carry 35, 40 times for 200-plus yards, but he's going to gain the hard yards. He's also going to catch balls out of the backfield. And maybe one of the most underrated things that running backs have to do is he is outstanding in pass protection. So if he can't go, that's a concern because Alabama's pass protection has been a weak spot for that offensive line, especially at right tackle. We may see a position change there on Saturday. So can Tennessee get home? Can they affect Ty Simpson? Every quarterback is much better when they're not pressured. Ty Simpson has been better than most when he has been pressured. But that is one of the big keys to this game. Can Alabama keep Ty Simpson upright and give him time to throw? And if they can, Tennessee's got issues because Tennessee's pass defense is 16th and last in the SEC. They're giving up an average of 258 passing yards a game. You want to talk about styles make fights, horses for courses? While Tennessee has the worst pass defense in the SEC, Alabama has the second best passing offense. They're throwing for, third best passing offense. Tennessee's first. Alabama's throwing for 304 yards a game through the air. That's a bad matchup for Tennessee. So Alabama's ability to control the ball, bleed the clock with that controlled passing game, and then hit a deep ball every once in a while, gives them a distinct advantage in this game. And as we saw last week with Ty Simpson, and I'm glad that people around the country now have opened their eyes and they've seen the light and they've understood that Ty Simpson is playing as well, stop me if you've heard this, as any quarterback in the country. It's just flat true. And if he's in the Heisman conversation when we get to late November, early December, that throw he made on fourth down in the fourth quarter against Missouri, you couldn't have walked and dropped the ball into Latsir Brooks' hands any more perfectly when he absolutely had to have it. Because you got to wonder if he doesn't make that throw, if that pass gets broken up, if it's a little off target, and Missouri takes over on downs, what might have happened? But it didn't happen because Ty Simpson made an elite NFL-type throw with the most pressure he's probably faced on a single play all season. It's certainly on the short list. So at this point in the season, after 6 games, that's not an anomaly. That's who Ty Simpson is. And that's what Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer have recognized, and that's why they've leaned on him the way they have. So can he continue that? Why wouldn't he against the worst pass defense in the SEC? Can Tennessee, though, control the ball with their more balanced attack, with their ability to run and throw the ball? Time of possession is going to be fascinating to watch in this game. Turnovers are going to be fascinating to watch in this game because I don't think there's much separation between these teams. There really isn't. And again, you look back over the last 4 games, they've each won 2. Even when Alabama, in Nick Saban's last game on the 3rd Saturday in October, got one last victory over the Vols, ended up 34-20 in Bryant-Denny 2 years ago. But if you remember, Tennessee came out on fire and hit Alabama in the mouth early. Alabama responded. The crowd picked them up, and they ended up winning by 2 touchdowns. But that final score distorted how difficult that game was for Alabama. This game should be no different. So while College Game Day and that spotlight is on Georgia and Ole Miss, while other people are focusing on Vanderbilt and LSU, while the U Freeze Watch will continue on Saturday night as Missouri rolls into Jordan-Hare Stadium. I wonder if it'll be the last time Eli Drinkwitz coaches in Jordan-Hare Stadium. Food for thought. Eli's going to be a very, very, very popular call for ADs and search firms looking for new coaches at the end of this year. He's done a really, really good job at Missouri. And, of course, he has an Auburn connection. Because usually connections help you get a head coaching job, especially at Auburn. Brian Harsin was the outlier, and after the way that crashed and burned, you will probably never see that again in your lifetime or my lifetime, where Auburn goes outside the box, outside the building, outside its mind, and hires someone who has no clue what it means to win SEC football games, or more particularly, what it means to recruit in the SEC. So, Eli Drinkwitz, is this an audition? Last time he was in Jordan-Hare Stadium, he did everything but beat Auburn when Harsin was there. I think it was may have been Harsin's last win at Auburn. And Missouri just gave the game to the Tigers on a platter. And they didn't accept it at first. They finally did. I have a feeling, how could you not lean Missouri? How could you feel good about Auburn's chances to beat any quality opponent at this point, when there has been more crying than coaching going on the Plains? Okay, maybe that's unfair. That's probably over the top. But there's been far too much focus on officiating and bad breaks, and far too little attention paid to dealing with the adversity that you didn't create, but you were hit with. How do you respond? How does Auburn respond on Saturday night? That's going to be fascinating to watch. But while everybody else is focusing on all of these other games, and they're ignoring one of the core rivalries of the SEC, Alabama-Tennessee is part of the fabric of this conference. And kudos, and really they couldn't have gone any other way, but kudos to the SEC for keeping this as one of Alabama's 3 permanent rivals and one of Tennessee's 3 permanent rivals. And we have to use the word permanent in asterisk, or put an asterisk after the word permanent, because they're going to revisit these 3 permanent opponents every 4 years under this new 9-game conference schedule. But I would venture to say the SEC will cease to exist before Alabama and Tennessee don't play football every single year. So what's going to happen Saturday night? Who's going to win this game? What iconic play is going to take place, whether it's Wesley Britt, an Alabama player, not Wesley Britt, he's not playing. I guess Wesley will probably be there, but an Alabama player, a beloved Alabama player, an all-time great Alabama player gets hurt, gets carted off. We certainly don't want to see that for either team. And then fires up the crowd with a raised fist. Is it going to be Roman Harper or someone like him punching out the ball from a Tennessee player as they're going in to score the go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter? Is it going to be someone like Terrence Cody blocking a field goal at the last second to preserve a 2-point Alabama win? Or is Joey Aguilar going to shock the world and make a play, make a throw at the last to beat Alabama for the first time since Tennessee did it in 2003? Let's look at the prediction. We've created a mini tradition here on these big games of making calls. We've been pretty good so far, with the exception of Alabama, Florida State, although we did warn you that the only thing Alabama had to fear in that game was Gus Malzahn himself. That came a little too true for the Crimson Tide. But in this one, I think Alabama will score more points than it scored in an SEC game to date this season. I think Tennessee will score points as well. If this game is more than a one-score game at the final buzzer or final horn, it'll be because someone scored a late touchdown or tacked on a late touchdown, perhaps in a bizarre way. These teams are very evenly matched. But again, there's that significant difference between Alabama's passing offense, one of the best in the league, Tennessee's passing defense, one of the worst in the league statistically. And I still say, I've been saying this for weeks, Ty Simpson in any quarterback matchup that Alabama will face the rest of the way, starting tomorrow, give me Ty Simpson. That's not an insult to Joey Aguilar. He's had a fantastic season. He has probably done a lot more than a lot of Tennessee fans thought he could do or would do when they basically traded with UCLA and Nico Iamaleava went to the West Coast and Joey Aguilar came from UCLA to Knoxville. But I got a feeling it's a lean. I'm expecting another classic. I'm expecting a game that someone will make a painting of afterwards, that will have a nickname that we'll remember 40 years from now. And that at the end of the night, and it is a night game, and night games are different animals in Tuscaloosa. The Alabama crowd doesn't, they don't get on those lists of the most intimidating home environments like Death Valley or Jordan-Hare after dark, which, by the way, Hugh Freeze is 9-9 in home games at Auburn. Who can we put to bed the idea that Jordan-Hare is this overwhelming, intimidating atmosphere? Unless you're Alabama, where the Crimson Tide has to go at the end of the regular season. Auburn's home field advantage has vanished under Hugh Freeze. So Alabama doesn't get that credit. Their crowd is a bit blasé because they're so used to seeing winning football teams and blowout victories. So they haven't always brought it. But as they've, like everyone else, they've added the laser lights, the sounds, the extra showbiz theatricality. I'm never going to say that word again. They just made it a more intense environment, especially after dark. So sometime late in the evening on Saturday, before the storms hit, a cloud is going to arise over Bryant-Denny Stadium. It will be a familiar cloud. You'll smell it before you see it. It will be a cloud of cigar smoke, because the phrase "smoke 'em if you got 'em" doesn't really apply, because somehow, some way, cigars by the hundreds, maybe by the thousands, will make their way into Bryant-Denny Stadium, and everyone will light up as Alabama finds a way and beats Tennessee 35-31. At least we hope it's that kind of dramatic ending, that kind of iconic game. It's what we've come to expect from the third Saturday in October. And all these other SEC games that are happening on Saturday, we're going to see some great ones. But there's only one game. There's only one rivalry that has a nickname based on its place on the calendar. The third Saturday in October. Alabama, Tennessee. I can't wait. All right, everyone. That's going to do it for us today on Scarbo Knows. I'm Kevin Scarbinsky. Thank you so much for watching. And like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. It helps us out. Give us a like. Don't cost nothing. Thank you to Brendan Martin, the executive producer on the Sidelines Live Network. And a special thank you to our sponsor, Money Management Services. Scan the QR code. Give them a call. You'll be glad you did. All right. Thank you, everyone. That's all for me. Have a great weekend. See you.
Since 1992, Money Management Services in Birmingham has provided individuals and business owners with trusted, fee-only financial advice. We're more than advisors, we're your financial family. From retirement planning to tax strategies and estate planning, our team builds personalized wealth management plans tailored to your life. At Money Management Services, we treat you like family, because when you walk through our doors, you become part of ours.